the deadliest prison gangs and the blood they spill. The alarm lights were still flashing when Detective Elena Rourke stepped through the reinforced doors of Blackridge State Penitentiary. The air felt thick, heavy with tension, as if the entire prison were holding its breath. Guards moved fast, radios crackling with clipped updates, boots pounding against concrete floors that had witnessed decades of unrest. Rourke had seen chaos before, but this felt different. Calculated, deliberate. A lieutenant rushed toward her. "Detective, it's happening again. Cell Block C. We found something you need to see." They moved quickly through the corridor, lights flickering above them. Inmates watched silently from behind bars, their expressions unreadable. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. A few just seemed to be waiting. For what, she didn't know. Cell Block C had been placed on lockdown. As they stepped under the metal archway, Rourke felt an unmistakable chill ripple through the air. This block was notorious, the center of rival gang territories, a pressure cooker of alliances, grudges, and silent declarations of power. The lieutenant stopped at cell C-214. "We found this during morning rounds." Inside, the small concrete room looked ordinary at first, bed neatly made, belongings stacked carefully. But carved into the wall above the bunk was a message, fresh and unmistakable. "The chains move again." Rourke ran her fingers over the letters. The carving was rough, hurried. "Who's the inmate assigned here?" "Transferred yesterday," the lieutenant said. "He's gone." Rourke's head snapped up. "Gone as in?" "Moved to medical for observation. Said he felt unsafe. He didn't explain why." Rourke stepped back and surveyed the cell more closely. Hidden behind the metal frame of the bunk was a folded piece of paper. She pulled it free and unfolded it slowly. Inside was a list. Not names. Symbols. One she recognized immediately, a small clover, associated with the Aryan Brotherhood's coded communications in historical cases. Another symbol resembled a sunburst often linked to certain factions within the Gangster Disciples. A third symbol, a simple circle with a horizontal line, had long been associated with messages intercepted in Mexican Mafia investigations. 3 gangs. 3 territories. 3 histories of violence inside state and federal prisons. "What is this doing in a single inmate cell?" the lieutenant asked. Rourke frowned. "Someone sending a message. And not just to the guards." She turned toward the hallway. The silence of cell block C felt like a warning. Somewhere in this prison, a force was pulling old strings, activating lines of communication that weren't supposed to exist anymore. They walked toward the surveillance office. The guard inside rewound the footage from the night before. Rourke leaned in as the screen flickered, showing the corridor outside C-214. For hours, nothing moved. Then at 2:13 a.m., the camera glitched, just for a moment, but when the image returned, the cell door was slightly ajar. Yet no one had entered. No shadows. No figures. No guards logged. "How often do these glitches happen?" Rourke asked. "Only once this week," the guard replied. "Once, and only on that camera." Rourke's pulse quickened. Prison gangs communicated in ways investigators had spent decades trying to decode: whisper networks, coded kites, hidden signals. But orchestrating something like this required coordination, across groups that did not work together. Unless something bigger was happening. She turned back to the lieutenant. "I want full intel on the recent transfers. Anyone affiliated with major gangs, anyone requesting sudden movement, anyone filing safety concerns." "That'll be a big list," he warned. "Start filing it," Rourke replied. "This isn't random. Someone inside is reorganizing old alliances." As they left the office, a guard ran toward them, breathing hard. "Ma'am, detective, you need to come to the West Yard. Now." They followed him, weaving through corridors until they stepped into the yard. Several guards and administrators were standing around a mural, old, faded from years before. It depicted symbols from Folsom prison history, woven into a mosaic of inmate art that had been allowed to remain as a reminder of past reform efforts. But someone had altered it. Paint, fresh, dripping, ran across 3 sections of the mural, connecting 3 symbols in one long red streak. The clover. The sunburst. The circle with line. The exact symbols from the note. Rourke's breath slowed. This wasn't graffiti. This was coordination. A signal meant to be seen. A declaration that the past was resurfacing. But something else caught her eye, something subtle, almost hidden in the corner of the mural. Scratched lightly into the paint, barely visible unless the light hit it perfectly, were the words. The doors that opened before will open again. Rourke stepped back, her heart pounding. This wasn't just a message. It was a warning. A reminder that history inside these walls had a habit of repeating itself, and that someone was actively working to make sure it did. "Detective," the lieutenant said quietly, "what do you think we're dealing with?" Rourke stared at the mural, at the symbols tied together in a way that should have been impossible. "I think," she said, "that 3 of the deadliest groups in the prison system are being pushed toward something. And whoever's behind this knows exactly how much power they still hold." And then in her pocket, her phone buzzed, a new message from an unknown number. She opened it. A single line appeared. "You're already too late." Rourke froze. "Too late for what?" the lieutenant asked. But she didn't answer. Because she didn't know. Not yet. But she intended to find out. Detective Elena Rourke stared at the message glowing on her phone screen long after the notification faded. "You're already too late." It felt less like a threat and more like someone whispering from the walls. Someone who knew the timing of this unfolding tension better than she did. She pocketed the phone and turned sharply to the lieutenant. "We need to move. I want to speak with the inmate who requested protective custody last night." They crossed the yard and headed toward the administrative wing, tension thickening with every step. Guards whispered as they passed, their uneasy expressions revealing what their radios didn't. Rumors were already spreading, rumors of old alliances resurfacing, of gang lines sharpening in the shadows. Inside the protective custody unit, a guard opened a heavy steel door and nodded toward a small interview room. The inmate was already seated, hands cuffed, eyes darting anxiously. He was older than Rourke expected, his face lined with years of surviving a system that rarely offered second chances. "Mr. Delgado," Rourke began, sliding into the chair across from him, "you requested protection. Why?" Delgado leaned forward, voice low. "Detective, something's happening in Block C, something I've seen before. And I'm not getting caught in the middle again." Rourke kept her tone steady. "What exactly have you seen?" He hesitated, swallowing hard. "Messages. Carvings. Symbols showing up where they shouldn't. People moving around that block who don't belong there. Not inmates. Not guards." Her pulse quickened. "You're saying outsiders?" "No," Delgado shook his head. "Insiders. But not from the same side. I saw a guy with AB tattoos talking to someone we all know runs with Laim. And nobody talks across those lines unless something big is brewing." Rourke exchanged a glance with the lieutenant. "Did you tell anyone else?" she asked. Delgado gave a humorless laugh. "Tell who? A guard? They'd think I'm stirring problems. Other inmates? They'd think I'm snitching. I came to you because I don't want to be around when whatever this is turns into something worse." Rourke leaned forward. "Delgado, why now? Why are these groups suddenly communicating?" Delgado lowered his voice further. "Because someone's pulling strings. Someone with enough knowledge to make them listen. Someone who knows their history." "History of what?" Rourke pressed. Delgado's answer was immediate. "Violence. Control. Territory. This place has seen its share of blood spilled over lines drawn long before any of us got here." He breathed out. "When messages like those appear, it means the leaders, inside or outside, are pushing for something. And the foot soldiers will follow." Rourke stood slowly. "If you think of anything else, anything, you tell the guards. We'll make sure it gets to me." Delgado nodded, though the fear in his eyes remained. Outside the room, the lieutenant frowned. "Detective, if gangs across different states and histories are suddenly coordinating—" "I know," she interrupted. "This is bigger than Blackridge. It's systemic." As they walked back toward the main corridor, a guard sprinted toward them, breathless. "Detective, Warden wants you in central control. Now." They followed him to the operations center, a large room filled with surveillance monitors and radio stations. The warden stood at the front, arms crossed tightly. "Detective Rourke," he began, "we've received multiple reports from different blocks. Inmates staying unusually quiet. Groups moving in patterns that don't match their usual routines. This feels coordinated." Rourke examined the screens. One monitor showed a group of inmates standing in the yard, silent, positioned almost symmetrically. Another screen revealed two known rivals walking side by side, speaking quietly. A third screen displayed an empty corridor, but Rourke recognized it. It was the same corridor where the camera glitched the previous night. "What do we know about maintenance access in this wing?" she asked. "Limited," the warden said. "But a few repairs were scheduled last month. Some contractors came through." "Background checks?" Rourke asked. "Routine," he said. "Nothing flagged." Rourke's gut twisted. The note she found in cell C-214. The altered mural. The inmate's warning. The symbols connecting rival groups. The message on her phone. All pointing to one notion. Someone with knowledge of multiple gang networks was orchestrating a shift. Suddenly, a loud alert sounded. One of the screens flashed red. "Block B, motion detected in the restricted hallway," a guard shouted. "That wing is supposed to be empty," the warden barked. "No inmate scheduled, no staff inside." "Pull it up," Rourke ordered. The feed switched. A grainy image appeared, a shadow at the far end of the hallway. Not an inmate uniform. Not a guard. A hooded figure. They moved with purpose, calmly, deliberately, then turned into a side room and disappeared from view. "Who is that?" the lieutenant whispered. Rourke stepped closer, heart pounding. "Someone who knows exactly where the cameras can't see." The guard rewound the footage. The figure appeared again, slipping silently past the camera's edge. The way they moved, carefully avoiding motion sensors, suggested training, familiarity, insider experience. "Warden," Rourke said, "I need access to all employee records for the past 5 years. Guards, contractors, external vendors, everyone." "You think this is an inside job?" he asked. Rourke didn't look away from the screen. "I think someone is orchestrating communication between the deadliest gangs in the system," she replied. "And whoever it is, they're not doing it alone." A second alert blared, louder than the first. "Block C, disturbance detected." Rourke's pulse jumped. What kind of disturbance? The guard's face drained. "Inmates are gathering. Not fighting. Gathering." Rourke inhaled sharply. Someone was calling them together. Someone was preparing them for something. The warden's voice trembled. "Detective, what does this mean?" Rourke stared at the screen as the inmates formed a silent ring in the yard. "It means," she said, "the message in that cell wasn't a warning." She exhaled slowly. It was a countdown. Subscribe for more dark mysteries, true crime documentaries, prison history and real-life suspense stories every week.